The sprawling gymnasium stood at the edge of town, its brick facade weathered by years of sun, rain, and snow. A relic from the 1950s, it served as a multi-purpose facility, home to basketball games, community events, and gymnastics classes for children. To the casual observer, it was a place of joy and laughter, a sanctuary of physical activity. But to those who worked there, it was something entirely different. Carol, a high school senior, had taken up a part-time job at the gym to save money for college. She loved working with kids, and the gym seemed like the perfect place to spend her afternoons. But that all changed one late October day. It was a chilly afternoon when Carol arrived at work. The sky was overcast, casting an eerie pallor over the town. She walked through the front doors of the gym, her breath forming small clouds in the cold air. Inside, the sounds of children's laughter echoed off the high ceilings. "Hey, Carol," called out Jenny, a fellow high schooler who also worked at the gym. Jenny was pale, her usual bright demeanor replaced by a look of unease. "Hey, Jenny, what's up?" Carol asked, setting her bag down behind the front desk. Jenny glanced around nervously before leaning in close. "Something weird happened during the gymnastics class I was teaching earlier." Carol raised an eyebrow. "Weird how?" Jenny took a deep breath. One of the kids, a little boy named Timmy, was staring up at the ceiling for a long time. When I asked him what he was looking at, he said, "There's a little boy up there," and pointed at the ceiling. Carol felt a chill run down her spine. "Did you see anything?" Jenny shook her head. "No, but it freaked me out. And it gets stranger." Later, 2 different coworkers came out of the gym, visibly shaken. Apparently, a pair of 5-year-old twins went down the slide, and then just stared up at the ceiling for a long time too. That evening, Carol couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling. She tossed and turned in bed, her mind replaying Jenny's words. The next day at work, she found herself glancing up at the ceiling more often than usual, half expecting to see a spectral figure. The gym seemed different now. The once cheerful chatter of children sounded distorted, almost sinister. The high ceilings, which had always made the place feel open and airy, now seemed to loom oppressively. During her break, Carol decided to investigate. She wandered into the gym, the echo of her footsteps bouncing off the walls. She craned her neck, looking up at the ceiling. There was nothing there, just the metal rafters and fluorescent lights. Looking for something, a voice startled her. Carol turned to see Mr. Daniels, the gym's janitor, standing in the doorway. He was an older man, with a grizzled beard and a kind, if weary, expression. "Just checking," Carol replied, feeling foolish. Mr. Daniels nodded slowly. "I've heard the stories. Been working here for over 20 years, and let me tell you, this place has its secrets." Curiosity piqued, Carol pressed Mr. Daniels for more information. He sighed, leaning against the wall. "They say this gym was built on the site of an old orphanage. It burned down in the late 1940s. A lot of kids didn't make it out," he explained, his voice tinged with sadness. Carol's eyes widened. "Do you think the spirits of those kids are still here?" Mr. Daniels shrugged. "Who knows? But I've seen things, heard things, enough to believe that not everything can be explained." As the days went by, more strange occurrences were reported. Kids frequently mentioned seeing a little boy in the ceiling. Objects moved on their own. The temperature would drop suddenly in certain areas of the gym. Carol found herself becoming more and more obsessed with uncovering the truth. She spent hours researching the history of the orphanage, trying to find any information she could about the fire and the children who had perished. One evening, long after the gym had closed, Carol stayed behind. She wanted to see for herself if there was any truth to the rumors. Armed with a flashlight and a determined spirit, she began her investigation. The gym was eerily silent, the only sound being the soft hum of the air conditioning. Carol walked through the darkened hallways, her flashlight casting long shadows on the walls. She made her way to the main gymnasium and stood in the center, looking up at the ceiling. "Is anyone here?" she called out, her voice echoing in the vast space. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, a soft whisper, "Help us." Carol's heart pounded in her chest. "Who are you?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Lost alone," the voice replied, seeming to come from all around her. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and Carol could see her breath. She felt a presence behind her and turned slowly. There, in the dim light, she saw the faint outline of a little boy. He looked no older than 6, his eyes wide with fear. "Who are you?" Carol whispered. The boy pointed to the ceiling. "Trapped." The apparition vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving Carol shaken. She knew she had to do something. The next day, she went to the local library and dug deeper into the history of the orphanage. She found old newspaper articles detailing the fire and the children who had died. One name stood out: Tommy Baker, a 6-year-old boy who had been trapped in the attic during the fire. His body was never recovered. Armed with this knowledge, Carol returned to the gym. She convinced Mr. Daniels to help her search the attic, a place that had long been forgotten. Together, they climbed up the narrow staircase, dust and cobwebs clinging to their clothes. In the attic, they found old toys, broken furniture, and a small, charred teddy bear. Carol felt a wave of sadness wash over her. This was where Tommy had spent his final moments. "We need to help him," Carol said, her voice choked with emotion. Mr. Daniels nodded. "Let's give him a proper farewell." That night, Carol and Mr. Daniels held a small ceremony in the attic. They lit candles and said a prayer for Tommy and the other children who had perished in the fire. As they finished, a warm breeze filled the room, and Carol felt a sense of peace wash over her. The next day, the strange occurrences in the gym ceased. The children no longer spoke of seeing a boy in the ceiling, and the atmosphere of the gym returned to its usual cheerful state. Carol knew that Tommy and the others had found peace. She felt a sense of accomplishment, knowing that she had helped them move on. Years later, Carol would look back on her time at the gym with a mix of fondness and melancholy. She had gone on to college and pursued a career in social work, driven by her desire to help those in need. So, was this real or fake? Did we completely make this up? Or was it based on a true story? Now, remember, we spice up the true stories a little, just to make them a little interesting. You tell us. Comment below. What do you think? I will reveal the real and the fake ones on December 18th.